Hello and welcome to today's episode that deals with types of books and book publishing in India. The subject expert today is Renu Agal, who has worked as journalist for 2 decades and now is associated with the publishing industry. I am Sakshi Mandwal. In today's program, we will discuss about books and their different types like academic books, fiction, non-fiction or even e-books. We will also take a look at the processes involved from writing a manuscript to the book being sold in bookshops. We will look at book publishing industry in India and the challenges faced by it. Simply put, any set of written and printed work bound by a cover is a book. Man has used wood, stone, papyrus and many different surfaces to write for over thousands of years. With the advent of printing, books as we know them arrived. And now, we often find people again talking of paperless books being the future. It is really amazing. Though we can classify books into different types, the broadest classification can be fiction and non-fiction. Fiction is a work which is based on imagination or fantasy. It is not necessarily factual or related to any historical event. Today, we find a large number of fiction titles on our bookshelves. It was not so when literacy rates were low and the print technology had not developed. In those times, it was considered too expensive to publish something whose sole purpose was entertainment. The most common work of fiction is a novel. Novels are stories which have a plot, setting, theme and characters. The themes and stories are just bound by imagination, so it could be serious, fun, tragic and controversial or pander to the writer's whim. But novels have made their presence felt in the publishing market because of their popularity. Then there are short stories, which is again fictional prose. Another genre of novels is the graphic novel and comic books. Here the prose is accompanied by illustrations and often the characters' thoughts are presented as dialogue. The other categorization of books is non-fiction. This covers the entire gamut, be it textbooks, reference books, almanacs, encyclopedia, dictionaries and atlases. Then there are the self-help books, books on religion and spirituality, cookbooks, home improvement, fitness, beauty books. The list is as varied and wide as the interests of the people they cater to. Apart from what they contain, books are often also distinguished by the covers they have. A sturdy thick cover with stiff binding is called a hardcover or hardback, while books with cheaper, thinner covers are called paperbacks. Usually, hardbacks are costlier and paperbacks are cheaper. Publishers often first publish in hardback and then bring out paperback versions. But usually, mass market commercial fiction is in paperbacks because it keeps the cost low and these books are often read once and disposed of. People tend to preserve and keep hardbacks because these are usually titles which have an enduring value. The electronic book is the digital version of the printed book. It is available on the internet and is available sometimes in CD-ROMs and other forms. A lot of people now read books on the net via devices like Kindle, Sony Reader and so on, and some books only see their lives in e-format and are never actually available in printed form. But more and more publishers are looking at converting existing print books into e-format so that they are available to the people for a long time to come. Digitizing books will also fulfill the need of the future libraries. So now, let us look at how a book comes into being. The author has a story to tell, a thought to disseminate, and he or she gets down to writing it. So basically, you need an idea which will form the book. But some experts say it is more important to understand who you are writing for. While those who have written and posted their unsolicited manuscripts to publishing houses and have often not got any replies, would tell you that the most important thing is to know someone in the publishing world. But maybe the easier solution would be to get an agent. An agent is your conduit to the publishing house. If you want to publish your book from a traditional publishing house, an agent can do wonders. Agents know the right editors. Most agents are specialists and deal in certain types of books and know the editors in that area. They also understand the pulse of the market and know the trends. Apart from this, the agent helps polish your proposal, give it a spin and increase its chances of getting accepted. The agent has also a good idea of what the manuscript is worth and can get you a better advance. The agent can look at the contract minutely and take you through the many ancillary rights that are at stake, like film rights, foreign rights, and so on. Now, once your book has been signed and you have delivered your manuscript, you think your work is done. But hold your breath. There is much more to it than just writing the manuscript. Often contracts are signed on concepts and it takes a long time to turn it into a final manuscript. Then begins the editing work and changes that you have to make in the manuscript. Questions from the editor you need to answer. Sometimes extensive work is needed on the text cutting, some parts, adding new information, seeking clarifications. This is called developmental edit. The writer then corrects, amends and resends the manuscript. This manuscript then goes through line editing. This involves a look at the manuscript with a fine-tooth comb, quite literally. An in-depth look line by line is undertaken and then the manuscript is sent back to the author. The author again responds to these changes and then the approved manuscript reaches the copy editor. And here begins the book production process. The manuscript is checked for language, spelling, grammar and consistency. The author answers the final queries. The book goes to the typesetter. Meanwhile, the design team works on the jacket design or cover design of the book. In the books which have artwork, photos and illustration, writers are often involved in the page design process also. Then the typeset proofs are read and corrected, and at this stage there is generally no involvement of the writer. Then the book is published. With thousands of books on hundreds of subjects getting published, it is marketing that gives a big push to the book. Publishing houses have marketing teams who work in close cooperation with the editorial. They get to know of new acquisitions and are given a flavor of what to expect. A couple of months before publication, the editor of the book meets the marketing executives to chalk out a marketing plan. As part of this exercise, a suggested retail price is decided and a campaign is created to promote and market the books. Trade journals are informed, flyers sent, online promotions happen, and then when the books are out, review copies are sent. A book release function is organized and interviews with the author are set up. All this goes a long way in increasing the visibility of the books. Now, marketing teams use new media, social media sites, mobiles, and other means to promote books. Often, book fairs, literary festivals, and other special events are used to create a buzz about books. Each publishing house has sales and distribution channels, which they use to sell books. There is the educational, library, and institutional sales network, which is often a big part of publishers' sales strategy. Mail order sales, retail, and other avenues are scouted to sell books. Companies have warehouses where they store their books and dispatch them to their distributors on orders received. The Customer Services Department handles all inquiries and orders from customers before, during, and after the sale period for new titles as well as for all backlist titles. Apart from this, there are people who look at all sub-rights, foreign sales, licensing activities, and special sales. If you make a living by writing books, you must know how book royalties get calculated. The money you will make out the book you have written. The publisher also decides what to pay the author as advance on a calculation of what the book will earn. Royalty calculation is usually fairly simple. It is the price of the book multiplied by the royalty percentage. And usually, the price of the book is the retail price on which it is being sold in a bookstore. But some big authors receive set royalty per book and they don't care about how much the book is being actually sold for. Sometimes, the price used in the calculation is the wholesale price that the publisher receives from the bookstores and wholesalers who buy the book. They are called net royalties. But sometimes, the contract talks of variable royalty rates. Often, if the book sells a large number of copies, authors get increased royalty rates. The publishing agreement usually includes title, introductions that include the parties involved, the date the contract goes into effect, and the location where the legal laws apply. The book is usually described as the work. One of the most important clauses is the granting of rights clause, which defines what the publisher's acquired rights are regarding the author's copyrighted work. Often, a publisher will want the right to sell the book as a screenplay to a movie producer or to turn it into an audio or e-book format as well as a printed format. Understanding your rights and obligations as an author is a must if you wish to negotiate a good contract. Subsidiary rights are basically subleasing of rights to third parties other than the publisher and author. These include, for example, first and second serialization rights and one-shot periodical rights. Serialization rights allow for all or excerpts of a book to be published in a newspaper or magazine. Periodical rights permit republication of all or parts of the work in journals or magazines. Reprint rights give the publisher the right to publish a different edition of the book, usually cheaper. This is an important right because it may lead to a hardback book being reprinted as a mass market paperback. Other subsidiary rights include newspaper syndication, performance rights, sound and recording rights, book club rights, the rights to produce and sell condensed versions of the book, and anthology, translation, electronic and commercial rights. For a non-fiction book, the manuscript delivery clause shows a description of the work and specifies when the author will deliver the finished work. It also states the consequences of not submitting the manuscript in time and in the condition it has been agreed upon. Many times, this clause is included in a contract for a novel also, because of the revisions required by the publisher before a work is published. The royalties clause defines the payments paid by the publisher to the author for granting the publisher the right to publish the work. Royalty rates vary from publisher to publisher. The advance clause defines how much and when an advance will be paid to the author. Often, only a partial advance is given at the time of signing the contract, with the rest to be paid when the edited and reviewed manuscript is delivered, all polished and ready for the publisher to begin production. An advance is just that, an advance on anticipated royalties. Additional royalties don't accrue until the advance is made up. Some publishers give a few free copies to the author when the book is released. Provision for this is included in the contract. The contracts also have clearly spelled out provisions for changes to be made in the manuscript if needed. And if the publisher fails to publish in a certain time frame given in the contract, there are provisions on what a writer can do or the compensation he can get. Each book is specified by an International Standard Book Number or ISBN, which is unique to every edition of every book produced by participating publishers worldwide. It is managed by the ISBN Society. An ISBN has 4 parts. The first part is the country code, the second, the publisher, and the third, the title code. The last part is a check digit and can take values from 0 to 9 and X 10. With the growth of internet, many had written the epitaph of books as we know them. But far from becoming dormant or being eclipsed, the publishing industry is growing at a healthy pace in the country. A recent estimate by FICCI, a trade body, says this industry is growing at a pace of 30% with a market size worth Rs 10,000 crore. India ranks third after the US and UK in English language publications. But if you look at the whole industry, then India produces almost 90,000 titles every year in over 20 languages. What has helped the publishing industry is a young population which needs books and also increasing literacy rates in the country. India exports published products to over 150 countries and it is worth over Rs 940 crore. There are big local and international publishing houses operating from India, including Rupa, Penguin, HarperCollins, Oxford, McGraw-Hill, Prabhat Prakashan, Rajkamal, Bani and others. A recent survey says that almost 42% of youth between 13 and 35 in India prefer reading fiction, which is followed by non-fiction, which has 24% young readers hooked to it. This is a trend which is apparent from the huge success of writers like Chetan Bhagat and Ravinder Singh. Let us now talk to Dr. Piyush Kumar, the director of Prabhat Prakashan, a leading publishing house, on the challenges and way ahead for the publishing industry. What is the outlook for the publishing industry in India?
Publishing industry has a bright future, but it has certain constraints also. Book reading habit is not much popular. It is decreasing. People tend to buy CDs, e-books, but not books. And it is restricted to certain areas. Fiction doesn't sell much. There are some exceptions, like Chetan Bhagat has sold million copies in English, but as compared to Hindi, it has sold only 20,000 copies. So there is a vast difference between Hindi regional and English languages.
Do you think books are here to stay, or are young people not interested in books?
Books are going to stay forever. No medium can replace the books. But only thing is, there is very selective reading nowadays. Fiction used to sell the most, but now the trend has changed. People generally buy books on self-help, personal development, health, hygiene, career, and so on. But nobody can replace the books.
Do you think the future of books in Hindi and other regional languages is as bright as the outlook for English language books?
There is a little bit, not little bit, much difference in the English and Hindi and regional languages reading habits. English books sells the most, but in regional languages, Bangla, Malayalam, Odia, Kannada, books are sold more than they are sold in Hindi. Recently, Manoj Das ji, a very famous Odia author, he told me that his books are sold about 1,000 copies per year. And we have published his book in Hindi, and we have been able to sell 2,000 copies in 5 years. So there is much difference, and that is because of the cultural habits. Hindi people, they do not take interest in reading books, buying books, gifting books. But in Bangla, Marathi, people buy books, they gift books, that's why they sell more.
Analysts say the problem with regional language publishing is that books are not reaching smaller towns and cities. How are the publishers addressing this issue?
Cost of advertisement has increased manifold. Previously, we used to advertise, and there were reviews, book excerpts published in newspapers, magazines. But now this scenario has changed. There are not much publicity given to the books. That is why we are unable to reach the smaller towns. But when we organize book fairs in, say, Patna or say Jaipur or Lucknow, Varanasi, we feel there is people want to buy books, and now we are making certain actions we are taking to reach more people.
Is it important to have a low priced book or a good quality one?
Both are equally important. If we produce a very low quality book and price it very less, even then it will not sell. The book has to be reasonably priced. It should not be exorbitant. Like as in English, prices are exorbitant, too much high. In Hindi and regional language, the prices are very low, and quality is at par with the English publishing. We don't feel that we are somewhere lagging behind as compared to the English publishers. Our books are as good as the English books are. So, and the quality always pays.
Historically, the publishing industry in India was dominated by the British publications. Companies like McGraw-Hill have a presence in the country from pre-independence days. Post-independence, foreign companies couldn't operate individually in the country, so they bought minority stakes in Indian companies. Meanwhile, a lot of homegrown companies were set up which made their mark not just in English publishing, but by publishing in regional languages. Then, with liberalization, foreign companies were no longer limited to distributing books, but could publish books in India. But the path of publishing industry is not so smooth. The biggest problem being faced by publishers is the dearth of talent in different fields of publishing, be it passionate editors, determined marketing professionals, or even entrepreneurs who want better content and wider reach and are ready to invest in making the business better. One often finds people in publishing work in this field accidentally and not being necessarily trained for it. Erratic recruitment and low salaries also don't make it a choice destination for young talent. A major problem being faced by the industry is infrastructure. There is a lack of coordination in distribution, retail, and marketing of books. This has resulted in books not reaching smaller cities and towns of the country. And it is in this space that online book retail stores like Amazon and Flipkart have become so successful. Therefore, publishers are looking at new ways to maximize their revenues, like distributing the books of their competitors or jointly publishing material. Industry experts say that the future will see a greater consolidation of the industry. Many publishing houses are looking at consolidation of businesses. Takeovers and tie-ups are increasing, and new ways of cutting costs like printing small quantities digitally on demand and not taking up expensive warehouse storage space are deployed. Often people feel books are not products like soap and shampoo sold solely for making money. It also has a cultural, educational and information providing role. We also have to understand that publishing ultimately is also a business and has to be run like a business. So we have looked at the different types of books and how they germinate from a thought which comes into author's mind and develops into a full-fledged manuscript. It then makes its journey through the editorial and production processes to come out in a book form for us to read. From learning alphabets to understanding the workings of the world, books broaden our horizons and enrich our intellectual growth. Though changing technology, changing use of mass media has seen people spending more time watching television or reading on the internet, books have still managed to carve a place for themselves in our lives. This is all we have for you for today. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good day.